truth, a moment of revolution for Indian national movement. And it is also, as you have read in history, it is also considered as first war of independence. So this is how this gave a momentum for people to come together and strike against the atrocities of the British. So this has mostly been the agrarian struggles that have been faced by the peasants in terms of the uh, taxation system, in terms of the land revenue system that was actually draining them of their wealth. And they've been bonded or enslaved in the notion of the uh, land revenue systems in the hands of zamindars or the landlords. So after the Deccan riots so what is Deccan riots of 1857? So Deccan riots of 1857 is armed revolts against the landlords and the money lenders. So like just like I've said, like 1857 is called First War of Independence, that is mutiny, Sepoys mutiny. And similarly, another 1857 movement has occurred in India in during the colonial rule. This is in Deccan region. So this similarly, there has been an offshoots of this movement in the later period. This could be seen as Indigo revolt in Bengal against the indigo plantation system, and Jantia revolt in 60 and 63, Kuku revolt 60 and 90, Peasant revolt of Pavana 72 and 73, Bardoli Satyagraha 1928. It was also part of Bardoli Satyagraha was also part of a non-cooperative movement. So it was also the peaceful movement. And Bardoli Satyagraha was a non-cooperation movement, and Champaran Satyagraha, Champaran movement of 1917, also known as Neel Satyagraha. It was led by Gandhiji, and it adopted satyagraha strategies in Bihar. This is against the exploitation and the greedy landlords in indigo plantation. And the Champaran Agrarian Act was also passed by Governor General of India in 1918. Then next comes Kheda struggle. Kheda struggle is in 1918. It is done under the leadership of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and it was a resistance of peasant communities, which basically consisted of Patidars Muslims and land labor against the new agricultural cess that has been imposed on this peasant community. And this Kheda Satyagraha, they went completely non-violent in spite of the use of force or external aggression by the Britishers. The most of the movement remained non-violent in nature. The next one is Mopla Rebellion in 1921. It is an armed rebellion against British and Hindu landlords in Malabar and northern Kerala. So, if we understand, Moplas are Muslim peasants. These Moplas are the converted Hindus, mainly during the rule of Tipu Sultan in after the capture of Malabar. So what happened in this rebellion is this has caused the immediate the renewal of fee, which was extremely high. So this was mainly an outcry to fight against the renewal of fee, and the British completely repressed the rebellion by 1921. So the Mopla rebellion is in against the landlords in Malabar. And Tebaga revolt. So Tebaga is an Bengali word for two-third. So this was launched by Kisan Sabha of Bengal in 1946. So this, what does this Tebaga movement revolt is about is, it's a clash between crop shearers and the jotedars, employers. And the poor farmers, middle peasants, and jotedars have led the movement. So the peasant movement uh, in post the colonial era has been very crucial in mobilizing the people in gathering their inputs into understanding like how the land revenue system and the taxation system has exploited the peasants, small farmers, or even the middle poor peasants. So these are the few of the movements which have occurred during the colonial era. Now, let us talk about some of the present movements that have happened after the colonial rule or after the independence. So, one such thing is Naxalbari struggle, which is in 1967. So, Naxalbari is also again a small village in West Bengal. So basically, the Darjeeling, like districts of Darjeeling. So what happened in Naxalbari movement is they had this support for the support from the communist leaders. So so if you remember the names of the communist leaders is well and good because mostly in most of the MCQs they were asked for it. So this is basically like their cry to get possession of this Binami lands. And they called for this area-wise seizure of power. And this conference, led by Bengal Kisan Sabha, had some of the important resolutions. So this is to occupy the land of Jotedas, seize the lands of plantation workers, and poor seize the lands of plantation owners who they got their lands from these poor peasants and they were forcefully taken by these plantation owners and cultivate lands held by Jotidas, spare the lands of those Jotidas who are engaged in self-cultivation. So this is an outcry for the land should belong to them and land should belong to the tiller and the illegal transaction of occupying such land should be given back again. So next one would be like this uh, movement. This had advocated guerrilla war tactics to annihilate their enemies. So next of such movement is the Telangana Prison Movement in 1946 to 51. So this movement was launched in 1946. This again was under the leadership of Communist Party of India. So this is also against the rich landlords and their autocratic rule. So basically, it was an outcry for the Raithwari revenue system. Some of the lands in Telangana were under Raithwari revenue system, and remaining lands are under the control of Nizam and feudal lords, who are known as like the Jagirdars. So the other areas which are under Raithwari revenue system, these lands are collected tax under these are known as non-Jagirdari areas, and they are controlled by Deshmukhs and Deshpandes. So these lands under Deshmukhs and Deshpandes or earlier zamindars, they were subjected to forced labor. So rich peasants were directed against the big absentee landlords who are basically from like they are aligned themselves to Nizamians. And during this period also it has seen an increase in number of Razakars and deployed who are deployed for crushing the movement and police also began suppressing the peasants, etc. So then rose the title or slogan of land to the tiller. So this land to the tiller slogan has mobilized peasants and it could able to mobilize peasants in large numbers. And this led to Nizam police attacks on communists and the resultant counterback led to a ban on Communist Party in Telangana. Now, what happened after Operation Polo and the after the independent Indian army has taken over the Nizam and they crushed this movement and this has led to the abolition of Jagirdari system and progressive land revenues were enacted. So in a way, it tried to stop the exploitation by these landlords and certain things that have led rise to the atrocities against them. Now, next one is contemporary prison movements. So, contemporary prison movements are like the earlier initial 90s 2000s or the latest developed movements which they were launched in various states, and the green revolution and farmers have launched or helped launch such movements in other regions. So if we talk about Maharashtra, it was under the leadership of Sharad Joshi of the Shetkari Sangathan have agitated in large numbers. So, what was this movement is for us? They've been fighting against the remunerative prices of onions, tobacco, or sugarcane or cotton, like which were in comparison the crops of the Maharashtra. And in Karnataka also, it was organized by Rajya Raita Sangha in the 1980s. So the main thing it focused on is the economic issues that have been faced by these farmers. So if we look at Uttar Pradesh, so in Uttar Pradesh, there was a farmer movement. It was led by Charan Singh. And in Punjab, the Bharatiya Kisan Union also led an unprecedented, unsuccessful Gherav of Raj Bhavan in Chandigarh by the farmers. So another such movement in contemporary India would be from Gujarat. So here also the farmers' lobby was established. It was mostly headed by Patels. Then in West Bengal, the left government in 2007 decided to permit the Salim group from the Indonesia. So there was an outbreak of peasant movements against this notion also. So the next one would be the tribal movements. So tribal movements in the same thing it happened during colonial era and post-colonial era. So if you look at the colonial era, these are all very important. So first of such rebellion is Munda rebellion. This happened in 1899, and the place of this movement is South Ranchi, and it was also led by Birsa Munda. So what happened? Why there was a revolt is it was a revolt against the immigration of Christian missionaries to the tribal areas and the extension of land revenue system, tax revenue system to the tribal area. So this was mostly the initial outbreak or the crucial outbreak for the tribal movements in post-colonial in the colonial era. And also the Adivasi Mundas were trapped in indebtedness because of the trap that was set put forward by landlords or the jagirdars. So this, and also to add on to it, the Forest Act of 1882 has disenfranchised the Mundas from the natural resources. So it has put restrictions on these forest dwellers or any forest dwellers, not just this, to depend on the forest or to go to the forest and collect the basic necessary needs of them as they were doing it earlier. So the enactment of Forest Act also disenfranchised, and after a while, Birsa Munda had declared himself as a god and became awakening. So he began awakening the people and to organize and revolt openly against the landlords and British India. And what happened to this movement is in 1990, he was caught, he was jailed at the age of 25. So British was successful in crushing this tribal rebellion brutally. Next of such tribal movement could be seen in Santal rebellion. So this happened in 1855. It is led by four brothers named Sindhu, Kanu, Chandu, and Bhairav. So the Santal rebellion has happened. If you look at it, it's in now modern day Jharkhand, and this is also against the oppressive zamindari system. So the main agenda of the East India Company was to earn money. So this route of money could be and through taxations or the zamindari system. So the company and the government had planned to earn revenue, and this led to reclaiming the forests, low literacy rate, and corrupt lending practices have made them fall into the trap and the loophole. And the most importantly, the notion of bonded labor and slaves, and the people who are cultivating in Zamindar's land have started to protest. And Santas initially, they gained some success in guerrilla war tactics, but eventually the British was successful in stopping this oppression from going on a huge outbreak. So the tribal movements of Santal rebellion, their main agenda is to fight against the zamindari system that has been put forward by the Britishers. So the Jharkhand movement. Next comes tribal movements in post-colonial period. So first of such tribal movement is Jharkhand movement in post-colonial period. So this is for a separate state of Jharkhand, and the state it was successful in forming a separate state of Jharkhand. Basically, the achievement of tribal people of Chotanagpur and Santal Paragana. So, and also the organizational activities for this movement has been led or uh, hosted by Chota Nagpur Unnati Samaj, which was formed in 1921. So now then what happened was the Adivasi Mahasabha formed in 1939. This was renamed as Jharkhand Party under the leadership of Jaipal Singh. So this is how a movement has led rise or gave rise to an establishment of political party itself. Then another of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha is the commission rejected the demand for the ground that the Jharkhand party did not have majority and in the Chota Nagpur and Santal Paragna regions. So the commission which had been put forward by them, it was said to have failed the basic demands or necessary provisions that need to be recognized, that need to be there to recognized as such. So, and also in 1970, Shimbu Soren of Pantal Paragana quit the party to form Jharkhand Mukti Morcha in 1973. So, this is how the evolution of the political parties or the tribal movements, in the lieu of tribal movements, have started to take place. So, the 1970 Shibu Soren of Santal Paragana, then they started uh, they started this movement. Then they also started a parallel group. Shibu Soren has also started a parallel group named Jharkhand Mukti Morcha under this Soren with Nirmala Mahato. The next of such thing is Bodo movement, Bodoland movement 1968. It is an ethnic and linguistic community centered in the Udalguri and Kokrajhar districts of Assam. So this treaty, Bodoland movement, goes back way to 1930. So it is also an oldest one among the ones. So the leader leader Gurudev Kalicharan Brahma had submitted the memorandum to Simon Commission. And plain say what was the proposals that have been mentioned in this memorandum is the Plain Tribals Council of Assam demanded the creation of Udyanchal, which was also carved out of Assam and granted upon territory status. So there has been a cry for the separate state and Assam to be divided 50-50. So this was the mostly outcry of these movements. And what happened was in 1970, it turned into an armed struggle under Rajan Jayamari, and the organizations that the Rajan Jayamari has established is named to be called as Bodo Security Force, because this initial movement which had started for uh, the Bodoland movement for ethnic and linguistic community. have later taken a very crucial role, like have violent role, and violent role, and the moment it started from a separate state, like the cry for a separate state to succession from India. So this is how the Bodo Security Force was also renamed later as the National Democratic Front of Bodoland, and the cry for a separate state demanded into succession. And there was a third wave of demand for Bodoland also during 1987 under Upendranath Brahma. And in 1993, the government of India, Assam government, had entered into bipartite Bodo accord with the ABSU Students' Union to form a Bodoland Autonomous Council. So now next in line is the Nagaland movement. So in Nagaland movement, which happened in 1963, these Nagas are basically the tribal people who are residing in the hilly areas of Assam and Tripura. So they also wanted to be recognized as for their identity and as such. So in an outcry, they formed Naga National Council in 1945 under the leadership of Angami Zabupizo. So this council has demanded a separate state of Nagaland outside of India. So it also tried to boycott 1952 general elections and also threatened to not to cooperate with the government. So Naga National Council had to resort to violence, which in a way it has pressurized the government for considering its demand. And the moderators demanded the integration of areas where Nagas were living in the single administrative unit. So this is how the Naga National Council have formed and demanded for certain things. So it is under the control of the governor of Assam, who rules the division in the name of the president of India. And there has been an agreement made between Naga People Convention and Union government, which led to the formation of Nagaland state in 1963. Then let us understand women movements. So then let us understand women movements. So like the women movements were around centered around social economic movements which had dealt with domestic violence, dowry system, abuse at work and public places. They were mostly popular among the urban middle class women. So these are the reasons the idea for the movements led by the women. So first of such movement is anti-price rise movement, which happened in Bombay in 1974. So what happened in this movement is it was a joint women's front, which was from the left-wing political parties. So this joint women's front demanded for consumer protection and fixation of minimum prices by the government. So this also took shape. This movement has reached Gujarat, and it took shape in Gujarat under the name of Navnirman Andolan. So what happened in this Navnirman Andolan is it became difficult for no, it became a movement which was joined by middle class and thousands of women who had joined it. But this movement, the anti-price rise movement in Bombay and Gujarat, had come to an halt, especially with the imposition of national emergency in 1975. And later on, the leaders who have participated in this movement also were arrested. Then another such important movement is anti-liquor movement. So this had started in Manipur, and these people who have been patrolling for this anti-liquor had called as Mera Babies. So they really fought for the government to ban this, especially to stop the outcry or the eruption of social evils like domestic violence, which is basically an initial outcome of alcoholism. Then it led to passing of Liquor Prohibition Act in 1991, and the state of Manipur was officially declared as a dry state, and the licenses were given to the people to produce the local brewery. So this is how the uh, anti-liquor campaign in Manipur has went on to. Then there is also another such anti-liquor campaign in Andhra Pradesh, which happened in 1992. So what happened in this movement is the women belonging to poor rural background have joined together to fight against to battle against this evil alcohol and issues that have been occurring due to this alcoholism, be it uh, domestic violence. So all these things, and this movement has provided a platform for local women, especially women belonging to Nellore, to openly discuss, to participate. So initially, it movement started out as some the survey or the research have been done by the women, and but this that very platform has provided space for women of local women who discussed private issues of domestic violence in and this movement took place in Nellore district where women had enrolled in adult literacy drives on a large scale in early 1990s. So the AREC auctions in Nellore district got postponed to 17 times. So once Vijay Reddy have come into power and becoming a chief minister, he put an immediate ban on AREC in Nellore district, and eventually in 1994, this has been a turning point or is a booster for Telugu Desam Party to support this movement, and it came back to power in the view of supporting this movement. Then Dalit organizations. So Dalit organizations or Dalit movements are especially the representation of Dalits in the political space or in any Indian space or the uh, mainstream space. So Panthers have the movement was very active during 1972 and 77, and they are a militant organization of Dalit youth. Their main origin lies to 1972 to combat the caste discrimination. So they got this inspiration from Black Panthers of USA. And this first generation Dalits, especially after independence, they began to assert themselves to various platforms because of the opportunities or the education system that there was available to them. And the effective implementation of reservations and all such things are prominent demands of this Dalit Panthers. So this their main war cry or outcry was to abolish the caste system and to implement the proper reservations so that the discriminations would not continue. And they have actually fought against the caste-based inequalities and material injustices that have um, occurred to the members of their caste. Then this is for Dalit Panther, and they were successful in making reservations to be implemented, but the movement got vanished after 77. Then next comes the environmental movements, which could be seen in terms of also as ecological movements, where the people have fought for the damage and destructions that has been occurring to the environment and ecological imbalance. So, few of such movements are Chipko movement. Chipko movement is an ecological movement. So, what for this movement has emerged is they in the sub-Himalayan region of Chamoli, Tehri, and Pauri and Garhwal, the government had ordered for the destruction or usage of the trees for the industries, for the manufacturing industries. So this movement was actually started by the Gandhi and Sarvodaya workers. So what they did was they had uh, they had this campaign run for went through the villages and enlightened or educated them on the destruction that would cause if this cutting down of trees had gone for. So the villagers had started to hug the trees so that the contractors would not destroy it. So this is why like chipko means hug the trees. So the forest department actually allotted like around 300 ash trees, Ajasanangi in Telugu, to Simon company for manufacturing. So this Chipko protest got major victory in 1980 with the 15 years ban on trees felling in Himalayan forest. Then it was led by Sundarlal Bahuguna, so who actually put, uh, walked around like 5,000. Sundarlal Bahuguna, who walked for 5,000 kilometers in a trans-Himalayan region on foot in from March 1981 to 83 in educating people about the destructions that would erupt if the trees were actually cut. So the ecology is permanent economy was a slogan that has been put forward by Chipko movement. Then next comes of such similar movement is Apico movement in Uttar Kannada. So what happened is the plywood factories have exploited the forest resources, and in order to save the Western Ghats, that spread over the hill areas of districts of Karnataka, the Sapiko movement have emerged. So what happened in this thing is like their main agenda is to rationalize the utilization of forest resources and establish Parisara Samrakshana Kendras. And like this is how the Apiko movement was also for the cause of the protection of ecology. Now another one of such thing is this is not the development like Apico or Chipco movement is not for the development. This where the lands were not used for certain construction of dams or development, but rather the trees were cut and sold for the industries. But the movements there are movements also against the developmental projects, which would submerge uh, lakhs of hectares of land and loss of biodiversity and animals to those uh, the construction development. So one such movement is Save Silent Valley movement in 1973. So the Save Silent Valley is how means Kerala government and Kerala State Electric Board proposed to build Pat, Pat, Patrakadau hydroelectric project in Kuntipur River. So this, what happened is, people have started to protest against this movement in the lieu of protection of environment. So that's why the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, which was a voluntary organization, had showed the uh, the report of like how such a project, such a huge, enormous project could damage or submerge around like 8.3 square kilometers of untouched evergreen forest in the name of development, and also many of the animals, many of the endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable animals, birds would be replaced. So this was not also basically not for the displacement of the people, but rather for the protection of environment. So, a economic and socio-political assessment report was submitted on Silent Valley hydroelectric project. So, this was also visited by Salim Ali, an ornithologist from Bombay Natural History Society, and also looked into the destruction that it would cause and appealed for the abandonment of the project. Now, what happened was, so it went to the court and now it has called for environmental impact assessment. So, environmental impact assessment was carried out like they just carried out this in 5 kilometers earlier, which looked into like not even 8.53 square 8.3 square kilometers, but it was just done on 5 kilometer radius in the dam site in a limited period of 5 months by environmental resources research. So this committee has submitted a report to the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi that the destruction that it would cost is unimaginable to the wildlife and the Western Ghats or the moist tropical deserts forests. So the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, had to abandon this project. So officially on November 15, 1985, Silent Valley forests were declared as a national park. So then another such important moment is Narmada Bachao Andolan. So this you might have heard because this is the latest one in 1985. So this is nothing but a protest against the construction of Sardar Sarovar project. So what is this Sardar Sarovar project? It is a multi-dimensional, multi-purpose dam which to be constructed on the river Narmada in Gujarat. So the Sardar Sarovar project in Gujarat and Narmada Sagar project in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh are most important and biggest multipurpose dams which are planned under this project. So what happened is the government had claimed that this dam would irrigate more than 1.8 million hectares in most of the region in Gujarat and some parts in Rajasthan. So the opponents of the dam argue that these benefits are exaggerated by the government. So, see, when the protest was called, the government had claimed that this dam will irrigate this agricultural land. It will do good to the uh, people of this states. But the movement protesters have said that this data of uh, irrigating 1.8 million hectares of land is kind of exaggerated in number by the government. So the NBA had demanded proper and just rehabilitation on the issue of rehabilitation of poor people, and also they would argue that it would replace more than 3,20,000 people and affect their livelihood or affect their day-to-day activities to the that of others. So what happened is in 2000, Supreme Court in its judgment on Sardar Sarovar Dam allowed immediate construction of the dam only up to the height of 90 meters. So, but this has to be subject to approval of Relief and Rehabilitation Group of Narmada Control Authority. So what happened is it was subject to approval from the Relief and Rehabilitation of Narmada Control Authority, and NBA continued to sustain the agitation for more than 20 years. But the appeals to judiciary and mobilization of support of international level and public rallies and the revival of satyagraha tactics uh, end of 90s, many local groups and the movements began challenging the logic of large-scale developments. So one such a similar project could also be seen in Tehri on Tehri River. So this Tehri project was launched in 1985 on the to construct a Tehri Dam over the Himalayan rivers of Bhagirathi and Bilangana. So Tehri project was also unsuccessfully challenged in Supreme Court, and the environment movements have thus been described as the most influential social phenomena in modern history. So the developmental projects were, to an extent, could not be controlled or stopped. The court was unsuccessful in stalling, and the result was on the developmental projects. So this today for today, that's what we have read: the environmental movements, the peasant movements, and the India women movements, and Dalit movements and tribal movements. So these social movements are very important and which will help you analyze your things further and understand the political scenario and structures and bringing up the democratic features of a nation. So that's what it's very important to analyze how the movements has been before the independence and how the course of movements have been after the independence. So this is what for today's lecture. And if there's an answer, the answers could be like right peasant movements, or they can ask the social movements that have shaped the change of Indian structure, Indian political process. Then you have to write all these things. Otherwise, they'll ask you peasant movements in colonial and post-colonial, tribal in colonial and post-colonial, then women movements, then Dalit movements, then environmental movements in purview of the developmental projects. So are they good for the development or the circling of the economy? Like this, the question could be framed. So I hope you are all clear with today's lecture. So if yes, drop a comment. Then we can uh, meet for another lecture next time. So I hope you are all clear with the concept today. So we have read about the movements. Yes, so again, go through the slides on YouTube and revise the material and prepare answers as per like the mind map so that you'll remember the main crux of the movement, year, leadership, and the main cause for that movement. So see you all in next class. That's all for today. Okay, see you all.